There are stories hidden inside the United States that never appear in textbooks, never reach the public, and never make it into the official biographies of American presidents. These stories live in the shadows, inside sealed rooms with no windows, behind classified documents, inside security briefings that have no transcripts, and in the memories of only a handful of people who were allowed to witness them. These are the vanished nights of America's leaders. Nights during which the President of the United States simply disappeared from the public record. No cameras, no Secret Service logs, no scheduled meetings, only silence, and decisions made in those hours that changed the direction of the nation forever. Our story begins in 1947, on a rainy night when President Harry Truman left the White House without explanation and departed Washington aboard an unmarked aircraft. There were no press announcements, no schedule entries, not even a Secret Service confirmation of his destination. Yet, records from Andrews Air Force Base show a single unidentified military plane departing that night, escorted not by normal security, but by a nuclear response team, normally used only during moments of existential national threat. Witnesses later claimed Truman met with individuals not on any government roster, inside a deep underground facility built before World War II. For 70 years, the government denied the flight ever happened, but traces of it appear in handwritten logs from a retired airman who wrote one sentence that still haunts American historians. The president didn't meet people that night. He met the kind of people only a president is allowed to know exist. 3 days after this mysterious trip, Truman ordered the creation of a new intelligence structure, one that bypassed Congress and operated in total secrecy. Why would a president create an agency with powers even the public government could not control? What did he learn that night? And why did all records of that visit disappear? Our story moves next to John F. Kennedy, America's most charismatic and televised president. The world believed everything he did was in front of the camera, but America's hidden truth says otherwise. During the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, Kennedy suddenly left his advisors and walked into a restricted level of the Pentagon, known only to senior nuclear commanders. But he didn't go to the war room. Instead, he descended 3 floors below it, into a sealed corridor known as Level 3B. That level does not appear on public blueprints. Inside that corridor is Room 116A, a chamber whose existence the government still denies. Kennedy remained inside that room for 47 minutes. Every person who was scheduled to meet him that night was told he was unavailable. When Kennedy emerged, he was pale, shaken, and immediately canceled the attack instructions he had approved only hours earlier. His closest advisors were stunned. His sudden shift in strategy saved the world from nuclear war. But what happened in Room 116A? What was he shown that made him reverse the most critical military decision of the century? Analysts who studied Kennedy's behavior afterward believe he was exposed to information about a threat greater than the Soviet Union, a threat buried so deeply within America's own structure that even presidents weren't meant to see it. The original file for Room 116A remains sealed under permanent national security protection. No U.S. president after Kennedy has been allowed inside. The third vanished president was Richard Nixon, whose paranoia was legendary, but perhaps justified. In 1971, Nixon left the White House at midnight in a limousine without full Secret Service escort. He was driven to Mount Weather, a top-secret underground city built for government continuity during nuclear war. Nixon spent the entire night there in a chamber known as the Deep Shelter, a room usually reserved for catastrophic national emergencies. But that night, there was no emergency, no war, no threat. Yet Nixon signed a classified document activating something called the Continuity Council, a team of individuals whose names have never been made public. This council would gain full control of the nation's emergency powers if America ever collapsed. The shocking part? The council members were not elected officials. Some were not even part of the government. Historians believe that night, Nixon met the real backbone of America's shadow authority, people who operate beyond elections, beyond democracy, beyond oversight. After returning from Mount Weather, Nixon's behavior shifted drastically. Staff described him as frantic and haunted. He began making decisions as if he feared something no one else could see. Our fourth vanished president, Ronald Reagan, had his secret night in 1985. Official records claimed he was relaxing at Camp David, but Camp David's sensor logs for that night are mysteriously missing. Intelligence officers later admitted Reagan was transported to a classified desert installation, most likely inside Nevada's vast forbidden zones. What he witnessed there has been debated for decades. Some claim he was shown experimental aircraft. Others believe he watched a demonstration of technology not built by any known American program. Reagan returned to the White House the next morning, visibly shaken. A few weeks later, he prepared a global speech in which he wrote, "If only the world knew what I have seen, nations would unite overnight." His advisors stopped the speech before it reached the public. The fifth vanishing belongs to President Bill Clinton. During his presidency, Clinton repeatedly requested access to certain classified files, particularly those related to unexplained incidents and programs older than the Cold War. Twice, he requested a direct briefing on Area 51. Twice, he was thus denied, something unheard of for a sitting president. But in 1998, Clinton used a restricted underground exit to leave the White House without his full detail. Only one black SUV took him to an undisclosed location. There, he was shown a compilation of files that tracked strange events in America from the early 1900s until the present day. The final note at the bottom of the last page read, "Do not pursue further." Years later, in a live interview, Clinton joked nervously, "There are things even presidents can't know." It was not a joke. 5 presidents, 5 vanished nights, 5 decisions that changed the world. Each one saw something the public was never meant to discover. And something even more unsettling begins to appear when you look closely. Every one of these presidents came back changed. Some became unusually quiet, some paranoid, some overly cautious, some strangely peaceful. But all of them returned from their vanished nights with the same expression in their eyes, an expression of someone who has seen something greater than power, greater than politics, greater than the presidency itself. Did they all witness the same truth? Was there one hidden system above them all? Or was there something else in America, something older, deeper, more permanent, that confronted them in those secret nights and forced them to alter the fate of the nation? Part 2 takes us into the hidden system behind those vanished nights, the network that every vanished president encountered, but none could ever expose. The vanished nights of America's presidents hinted at something larger, something operating beyond the walls of the White House, beyond the Pentagon, and beyond the reach of elected power. Each president witnessed a fragment of this hidden system, but none were allowed to see its full structure. And perhaps that was intentional, because what existed beneath the American government wasn't a conspiracy. It was an architecture, a framework built silently over decades by individuals whose names never appeared in newspapers, whose faces never appeared on television, and whose influence continued across generations without interruption. They were not a secret society, nor a shadow government in the conventional sense. They were something far more sophisticated, custodians of a truth too destabilizing for the nation to confront. This network, known only in fragments by intelligence circles as the Silent Directorate, was not formed by elections, revolutions, or political parties. It emerged slowly, shaped by crises, wars, discoveries, and accidents that threatened to expose truths about America's past and future. The Directorate had one mission: prevent the public from learning about the forces that could break national stability. These forces included classified technologies, unknown phenomena, ancient structures found beneath American soil, and foreign operations that would trigger global panic if revealed. But the most unsettling part was this. Presidents did not control the Directorate. They met it. They were briefed by it. They were warned by it. And then, they were placed back into the public system as figureheads of a machine far larger than themselves. The earliest recognizable version of the Directorate formed during the end of World War II. Declassified memos show a small circle of military and scientific leaders meeting privately to handle unmanageable discoveries, recovered from multiple locations around the world, artifacts, documents, and technologies that didn't belong to any nation involved in the war. These discoveries were brought to the United States under the guise of national security research. But instead of being studied publicly, they were hidden in facilities no president ever visited, run by people no historian has ever interviewed. Truman's vanished night in 1947 was his first and only introduction to this network. According to heavily redacted notes from that period, Truman was shown a discovery found in the Midwest, a discovery so unclassifiable it required the formation of a new intelligence body. He agreed to create it, and the CIA was born. But quietly, the Silent Directorate expanded in parallel, using the CIA's public existence as a screen for its hidden movements. By the time Kennedy entered office, the Directorate's reach had grown beyond intelligence. It had influence in scientific institutions, congressional committees, aerospace programs, and industrial giants whose innovations came too suddenly, too precisely, and too perfectly aligned with classified discoveries. Kennedy's Room 116A briefing was never meant for him. It was meant for the Directorate's own upper tier. But desperate for solutions during the missile crisis, Kennedy followed a chain of access he wasn't supposed to. He entered a room that wasn't intended for presidents. And what he saw, what made him reverse the course of nuclear war, was not a threat from Russia. It was a threat from within America's own history, something hidden beneath the nation long before the modern era, something the Directorate ensured would never appear on any map or public record. After Kennedy emerged from that room, the Directorate moved quickly. 2 months later, access to 116A was rewritten. Future presidents were blocked from the corridor entirely. Nixon met the Directorate under very different circumstances. Unlike Kennedy, Nixon sought them out. Obsessed with control and terrified of forces he couldn't see, he dug into restricted archives until he stumbled across references to alternative authority protocols. These protocols described a system that could override presidential command in the event of certain catastrophic scenarios Nixon wasn't allowed to know. Driven by paranoia, Nixon pushed his way into Mount Weather. When he arrived, he expected to find bunkers and emergency governance plans. Instead, he found a large, circular chamber where a group of individuals, none in military uniform, none in political office, showed him projections of future trigger events. These were classified scenarios, modeled with precision: massive societal breakdowns, mass panic from unexplained discoveries, global power shifts triggered by information leaks. Nixon learned the truth that night. America's stability depended less on elections and more on what the public never found out. The Continuity Council he authorized was simply the Directorate gaining official legitimacy, a structure ready to step in when democracy failed to protect what they guarded. Reagan's vanished night wasn't a meeting with the Directorate. It was a demonstration staged by them. The purpose wasn't to scare him, it was to warn him. The object he witnessed in the Nevada desert, hovering without visible support, rotating silently in ways no human craft could, was a physical reminder that America had stumbled upon things it didn't fully understand. The Directorate wanted Reagan to know the world was not built only on human forces. There were deeper truths, things found in deserts, mountains, oceans, and caves that humans had simply inherited. After witnessing the demonstration, Reagan attempted to reveal a piece of the truth in a global speech, urging humanity to unite against an outside threat. His words were gentle, but the message was bold. The Directorate shut it down instantly. Clinton, unlike the others, wasn't shown something new. He was shown a summary, an index, a history of anomalies collected over a century, strange objects excavated from ancient rock layers, signals detected beneath national parks, structures found during construction projects and immediately sealed, events that appeared to be accidents but were actually containment operations. Clinton wasn't given power. He was given context. The Directorate showed him just enough to ensure he would stop asking questions. And he did. From that day forward, Clinton never again attempted to access files beyond his clearance. The Silent Directorate, despite its ominous power, wasn't evil. It wasn't trying to dominate the world. It was trying to protect it, though its methods blurred the lines between safety and control. The Directorate believed that if certain truths became public, truths about what presidents saw, what lurked beneath federal land, what technologies America truly possessed, and what was discovered during excavation of ancient continental structures, the social and political fabric of the nation would tear apart overnight. Their philosophy was simple. If the truth destroys stability, then stability must come before truth. But by the time the fifth vanished, presidents saw the Directorate's files, cracks had begun to form. The volume of unexplained events was growing. More discoveries were being made accidentally. More signals were being detected. More presidents were demanding answers. The Directorate was losing control. And in those moments when the Directorate's grip weakened, a new question emerged. If 5 presidents saw different pieces of the secret, who saw the whole truth? The answer leads to a president who vanished not for one night, but for 3 days, and whose disappearance was erased so completely that the American public never even knew he was gone. Part 3 reveals that president and the truth he uncovered. The 5 vanished nights were disturbing enough, but none of them revealed the entire truth. Each president was shown a fragment, one piece of a vast hidden architecture that shaped the United States from the shadows. But there was one president who did not vanish for hours. He vanished for 3 full days. And unlike the others, his disappearance was erased so cleanly that no historian, no journalist, and no member of the public ever realized he was gone. That president was Dwight D. Eisenhower. Official history says Eisenhower chipped a tooth during a stay in Palm Springs in 1954 and rushed to a dentist. In reality, no dentist in Palm Springs has any record of treating him. The local hospital has no entries. The Secret Service logs for those 48 hours are corrupted. And the base commanders who tracked Air Force One movements later admitted under classified review that Eisenhower was not in California at all. He had been flown, under a false identity, to a restricted military installation in the Southwest. 3 aircraft arrived with him. None took him back. For 3 days, the President of the United States was missing from the nation he governed. The story of those 3 days remained buried for half a century. It resurfaced only because an Air Force intelligence officer, near death in 1997, left behind a handwritten confession describing the night of the visitors, a term unknown in any government archive. His confession revealed that Eisenhower was taken to witness something neither Truman nor Kennedy had ever been shown: the origin point of the Directorate itself. When Eisenhower arrived at the base, he was escorted into a subterranean complex beneath the desert floor. Unlike typical military installations, this one had no insignias, no division badges, no branch identifiers. The hallways were sterile and silent, reinforced with titanium plates. The air was unnaturally cold. Eisenhower asked why he had been brought there. The escort replied, "Because you must see what you are about to inherit." Inside a circular chamber stood 7 individuals, none in uniform, none in politics, yet all carrying an authority beyond titles. They introduced themselves not as officers or scientists, but as custodians of continuity. They explained that throughout American history, certain discoveries had been made, objects, structures, energies, that could not be allowed to reach civilization. These custodians were the earliest version of what would later become the Silent Directorate. Eisenhower demanded proof of what they were protecting. The custodians took him deeper underground. There, Eisenhower saw something that would mark him forever. Though no surviving document describes it in detail, witnesses hinted at a chamber carved from an ancient material. Not rock, not metal, something in between. In its center was a towering figure sealed inside a translucent shell, frozen in a position that looked almost like sleep. Its features were not entirely human. Too tall, too symmetrical, too alien in design, yet too familiar to dismiss as fantasy. Eisenhower was told this figure was not from outside Earth, but from before America existed. A remnant of an ancient civilization or entity that once walked the continent long before humans arrived. The custodians warned him, "This is why your office is not the highest in this country. You are a guardian of stability, not truth." Eisenhower was shaken but defiant. He demanded that the American people be told. The custodians refused. They showed him records of past civilizations that collapsed after similar revelations. They presented energy readings indicating that whatever lay beneath the desert was dormant, but not dead. Eisenhower asked, "What if it wakes?" The custodian replied, "Then we contain, or we fall." For 3 days, Eisenhower was briefed on a parallel history of America. A history of things found in the Grand Canyon, in Alaska, beneath the Appalachian Mountains, structures older than recorded time, technologies that shouldn't exist, objects that seemed designed to interface with something buried deep in the earth, signals detected from beneath national parks, events during construction of dams and highways that forced entire projects to be diverted due to unexplained complications. The custodians had been suppressing these discoveries for decades, and Eisenhower was the first president to see the entire picture, because he was the first capable of stabilizing the new nuclear world. He left the facility with a warning carved into his memory. Elected power changes, unseen power endures. When Eisenhower returned to public view, he looked older, far older, than 3 days should have made him. His staff noticed his silence. His generals noticed his fear. His public speeches became more cryptic, especially his final address, where he warned America of a creeping military-industrial complex. Words historians interpret as political commentary, but in truth were a coded warning about the Directorate's rise. Eisenhower didn't vanish for diplomacy. He vanished because he had been shown America's oldest secret. But why did future presidents only see pieces of what he witnessed? Because Eisenhower made the Directorate promise never to burden another president with the full truth again, unless absolutely necessary. Only small pieces were shown, just enough to scare them into compliance, but never enough to reveal the entire architecture. That promise held for decades, until one president broke the rules. In the early 2000s, a modern president demanded access to the Eisenhower briefing. He wanted to know everything the Directorate had been hiding. He refused their fragmented explanations. And so, for the first time in half a century, a president was shown what Eisenhower saw. And the consequences of that decision would shake the entire Silent Directorate. For decades, the Silent Directorate lived by one rule: no president must ever know everything. Eisenhower had seen too much, and it nearly broke him. Kennedy saw a glimpse and was changed forever. Nixon saw enough to terrify him. Reagan saw a demonstration meant only to warn, not to inform. Clinton saw summaries designed to redirect his curiosity. But one modern president refused to be redirected. A president who believed absolute authority came with absolute access. A president who demanded the truth with a force that shocked even the Directorate. That president was Barack Obama. Not for conspiracy reasons, not for rumors, but because Obama was the first president of the digital age, one who understood that information, once discovered, could not be undiscovered. Early in his administration, Obama asked for a full classified briefing on all anomalous discoveries across the United States. At first, he was given the usual fragments presidents receive: UFO files, Cold War operations, unexplained incidents. But Obama saw the pattern in the fragmentation. Too many pieces that didn't connect unless something much larger was being hidden behind them. So he pushed harder, and harder, and harder, until the Directorate realized he wouldn't be deterred. According to a retired intelligence officer, Obama's persistence forced the Directorate into an emergency session, the first since the early 1980s. What they feared was simple. If Obama pieced together the truth on his own, he might expose it publicly. So they made a decision the Directorate had avoided for 50 years. They gave a president the Eisenhower briefing. But the briefing did not happen at a military base. It happened in a place no one expected. A remote facility in Colorado, built inside a mountain older than American history itself. Obama was taken there, in absolute secrecy. Only 4 advisors knew he was gone. Phones were confiscated, communications were blacked out, cameras were prohibited. Inside the mountain, the Silent Directorate showed him the archive Eisenhower had been shown decades earlier, only now it had grown much larger. Obama saw maps marking sites across the United States where underground structures of unknown origin had been found. He saw seismic charts with patterns that did not match earthquakes, explosions, or geological movement, patterns that matched signals. He saw ancient artifacts unearthed from bedrock layers millions of years older than humanity. He saw footage from the Nevada facility Reagan had visited, footage of an object that violated known physics. And finally, he saw photographs of the thing Eisenhower had been shown, the towering sealed figure inside the translucent chamber, still unmoved, still dormant, still waiting. Obama's immediate reaction was disbelief, then fear, then anger. He demanded answers from the Directorate. What was this thing? Where did it come from? Why had it been kept secret for so long? Why hadn't America prepared for it? The Directorate gave him the same response they gave Eisenhower. It has always been here. But Obama wasn't Eisenhower. He didn't accept the silence. He demanded to know the truth behind all of it, what the Directorate believed the entity was. Their answer was simple and terrifying. A remnant. The Directorate believed these sealed figures were remnants of something that existed long before humanity. A civilization, a species, or a force that shaped the geography of North America before vanishing. Some believed they were guardians. Some believed they were prisoners. Some believed they were survivors of a cataclysm that erased their world. But all agreed on one thing: they must never wake. Obama left the facility shaken. But unlike Eisenhower, he didn't retreat into silence. He confronted the Directorate. He argued that hiding this truth was dangerous, that Americans had the right to know what slept under their feet. The Directorate refused. If the public learned humanity wasn't the first intelligence on Earth, society would unravel, religions would fracture, governments would collapse, nations would panic, and worst of all, curiosity would awaken forces the Directorate had spent decades trying to keep buried. Obama pushed for a controlled release of information. The Directorate denied it. Obama proposed forming a joint scientific task force. Denied again. Obama suggested bringing in global leaders. Denied instantly. By mid-2012, the relationship between the White House and the Silent Directorate was so strained that intelligence channels began reporting a dangerous fracture within America's hidden power structure. The Directorate feared Obama's curiosity. Obama feared the directorate's secrecy. And then, something happened that changed everything. In late 2012, underground sensors across the country detected a pulse. Not a random vibration, not an earthquake. A pulse identical to the one detected during Eisenhower's vanished days. A pulse coming from multiple sites, including the chamber Reagan had visited. The directorate moved in absolute panic. Obama demanded full transparency. For the first time in its history, the directorate was forced to reveal its deepest fear. The sealed entities were not dead. They were sinking, as if preparing, as if responding to something. Obama reacted with urgency. He ordered NASA, the NSA, and the Department of Defense to quietly search for external signals, pulses, or patterns. For months, nothing appeared. Then, one December night, the NSA intercepted an unusual burst of low-frequency energy originating from deep space and ending somewhere beneath North America. Obama requested the full data. When he saw it, he made a decision no president before him had ever made. He ordered an investigation directly into the sealed chambers, bypassing the Silent Directorate. This was an act of rebellion, a direct threat, a violation of the Directorate's core rule. And what happened next would fracture the most powerful hidden system in America and trigger an event that could no longer be hidden from the world. Part 5 reveals what Obama discovered and the final truth behind why America's presidents vanish. Obama's decision to bypass the Silent Directorate was the moment the balance of hidden power in the United States finally broke. For decades, the Directorate had operated uncontested, confident that no president would ever challenge its authority. But Obama was different. He believed leadership meant understanding the whole truth, even the parts deemed too dangerous for the public or for democracy itself. So he did what no president before him had dared to do. He sent a team directly into one of the sealed chambers. The moment the order was given, the Directorate went into crisis mode. Their internal documents, later leaked in fragments, describe it as the beginning of uncontrolled exposure, something they had feared since 1947. They mobilized containment units, scrambled aircraft, and attempted to intercept the investigation team. But it was too late. The team had already reached the chamber beneath a remote region of the Appalachian Mountains. This chamber was older than the civilization around it. Its walls were carved from a stone-like substance unknown to geology, seamless and smooth, as if shaped by machinery far beyond modern precision. The deeper the team went, the more they felt an unnatural heaviness in the air, like a pressure, not physical, but psychological, building with every step. And then they reached it, a colossal, sealed sarcophagus-like structure, similar to the one Eisenhower had seen decades earlier. But this one wasn't dormant. Hairline cracks pulsed with faint blue light, as if something inside was breathing. The team approached it with cautious instruments, thermal sensors, electromagnetic readers, geological scanners, but every device malfunctioned one after the other. Batteries drained instantly, lights flickered, communications cut out. The only thing that remained operational was the camera system feeding a live encrypted signal directly to the White House. Obama watched in real time. The team touched the surface. The chamber reacted. The blue cracks expanded, forming a pattern, a symbol that matched the same markings shown to Eisenhower years earlier. A symbol the Directorate believed almost religiously meant, "Do not open." But it wasn't opening. It was activating. The entire chamber began to hum. The floor vibrated. Loose rocks levitated. The symbol glowed brighter. And then, a pulse. Not outward, but inward. It wasn't trying to escape. It was calling something. At the exact same moment, hundreds of miles away, sensors in Nevada, at the site Reagan had visited, detected a synchronous pulse. Then another in Alaska. Then another beneath the Mojave Desert. and another beneath the Atlantic continental shelf. 5 pulses, 5 chambers, 5 sealed entities, awakening together. Obama watched as the sarcophagus-like structure in the Appalachian chamber expanded slightly, just a millimeter, but enough to register on the camera. Enough to prove it wasn't a relic. It was alive. The team panicked. They attempted to retreat, but a sudden gravitational force pulled them backward. Their bodies lifted into the air, suspended like weightless figures trapped in a current. The glowing cracks converged into a single, vertical line, just like the monolith Reagan had seen. Obama stood frozen, horrified. Then the line split open. A blinding white flash filled the chamber, overwhelming the camera feed. The screen in the White House went black. Every team member vanished. No bodies, no suits, no equipment, nothing. The chamber was empty again, silent, waiting, breathing. Moments later, the Directorate forced their way into the White House. Not physically, through secure channels, emergency authority protocols, and command overrides Eisenhower had unknowingly authorized decades earlier. Obama was confronted with an ultimatum: shut down the investigation or lose operational control of national security. But Obama refused. He demanded answers, real answers. The Directorate finally told him the truth they had never said out loud. The sealed entities were not discovered. They were inherited. Long before America existed, before tribes migrated across the continent, before glaciers receded, something ancient lived here. A civilization, or force, of unknown nature. Their structures remained deep underground. Their technology, if it could be called that, was beyond comprehension. Some believed they were guardians. Others believed they were the first intelligence on Earth. The Directorate believed they were survivors of an extinction-level event, sealed away by their own kind, or by something else. And the most terrifying truth: the chambers were not meant to be discovered by humans. Their awakening was triggered by modern interference: mining, drilling, nuclear testing, seismic probing, and military excavation. Obama listened to everything. And then he said something no president had ever dared to say to the Directorate. "The American people deserve to know the truth." Panic erupted. If the truth became public, everything the Directorate spent 70 years protecting would crumble. Religious institutions, political systems, scientific foundations, national security, doctrines, all would be destabilized overnight. The Directorate moved to stop him. For 3 days, a silent power struggle took place in Washington. Obama prepared a classified emergency address. The Directorate mobilized its influence to suppress it. Intelligence agencies split, some supporting the president, others the Directorate. And then, something unexpected happened that changed the course of everything. The pulses stopped. All chambers went silent. Sensors detected no movement, no energy, no awakening, as if the entities paused. Some believed they were watching, waiting for humanity to choose, waiting to see if humans would expose the truth or bury it again. Obama read the signal for what it was: a warning, a test, a moment of judgment. At the last moment, under pressure from both the Directorate and global implications, Obama made a decision he never spoke publicly about. He did not reveal the truth, but he created a program to monitor the chambers more closely. A hybrid system combining presidential oversight with Directorate containment. A compromise. And then, quietly, Obama made one final move. The most important of all. He ordered that the full briefing, the Eisenhower files, the chamber recordings, and every piece of evidence be compiled into a sealed archive that must be shown to every future U.S. president on their first day in office. The Directorate protested. But Obama had learned their weakness. As long as the presidency still carried symbolic authority, it could force transparency from the shadows. That archive exists today. It has no official name, but insiders call it the vanished file. A file only 5 living people have ever seen. A file explaining the real reason certain presidents vanish. A file recording the existence of ancient forces beneath the United States. Forces that are silent now, but not gone. The chambers remain sealed. The pulses have stopped. But the entities beneath America are still there, waiting. And every president who reads the vanished file understands one truth. The greatest secret in America is not who lives above the ground, but what sleeps beneath it.